Welcome to another episode of the TaxVerse podcast experience from Crosslink Professional Tax Solutions. I'm your host, Zach Kreitz, of the podcast that helps tax businesses and entrepreneurs grow their community, generate more revenue, and expand their knowledge. In today's episode, I am excited to introduce to you Cassi Watkins, an enrolled agent with over 6 years of experience in the tax preparation industry. As we approach tax season, we know that many of our listeners are seeking expert guidance and advice on how to navigate the complexities of the tax season. That is why we invited Cassi to share her insights and expertise with us. As an enrolled agent, Cassi is authorized to represent taxpayers before the IRS and can provide valuable assistance in resolving tax issues, filing tax returns, and navigating audits. With her deep knowledge of tax laws and regulations, Cassi will share some of her top tips for tax preparation, including common mistakes to avoid and how to stay organized throughout the year to make tax season less stressful. You won't want to miss this informative and engaging conversation with Cassi Watkins. Hey, Cass, thanks for joining today's show. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, anytime. I'm glad to be here.
Hey, I really wanted to get you on the show because obviously you are an enrolled agent and I've worked with you for years, but we really wanted to share some of your expertise with our listeners. Just to start off, maybe explain, I know probably a lot of people know what an enrolled agent is, but some new listeners may not. So can you just kind of go over what the kind of role of an enrolled agent is and how you become one of those?
Yeah, so an enrolled agent just means that you have passed three specific tests that the IRS has designed. They kind of measure your proficiency in a couple different tax areas. So, for example, the first one that you can take as individual, you can do them in any order you'd like, but then ethics and also business. So you have to pass those. They are made by the IRS, so they obviously have like specific parameters, what they're trying to measure that you're proficient in those areas. It is the highest credential that the IRS provides. So it allows you the same kind of capability as a CPA or anything as far as representing somebody before the IRS or, involving yourself in any kind of tax matter. So really, it just shows that you are very knowledgeable as a tax preparer. You can answer any kind of questions that the IRS might throw at you in any of those areas. And then it also has a continuing education requirement as well. So you have to make sure that every 3 years you're taking the 72 hours to stay up to date on the tax laws. And so it makes sure that you stay up to date and that you are up to date to begin with.
Okay, nice. The is it is there any costs associated with the testing or the credential itself? Is there? I
Yeah,
think it's like,
so
is it $100 or something?
yeah, it's went up since I did it the first time for sure.
Uh huh.
It is 140 every time you re-enroll. So enrollment periods every 3 years. So to keep your credential, you have to pay that and take your continuing education. Of course, you have to pay for the continuing education. There are some free IRS resources that they do every once in a while, but for the most part, you can attend an IRS forum or like locally we have one that's ran by the University of Illinois. So there are some really good programs out there. So you have to pay for those to keep your credentials and get your hours that you're required to have. And then you have to pay to take each test. And that kind of varies, just depending on where you're at. Around here, it's like $203 a test. So there are definitely some costs to
Okay,
getting it to begin with and then keeping it up.
gotcha. So switching gears a little bit, the tax season is underway and we're almost hitting April, so that means we're coming to a close as far as that goes. But as far as your experience, what are some of the mistakes preparers tend to make when preparing taxes, and you know what are some of the things that they can do to kind of avoid those?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I see that people will maybe not do the best job at or could do a better job at is just asking due diligence questions. We all want to
Hmm.
believe that people are going to be as honest as they need to be with us. But as a preparer, it's really important that, you go beyond, they've dropped off a copy of a kid's social security card. We need to make sure that's their actual child, and ask the questions. If they've dropped off, a shoebox of receipts, maybe make sure that what's from Walmart really was for the business. So the biggest thing I see is just not doing the due diligence, maybe for head of household or filing status or for claiming a dependent. And so if you do all that on the front end, then you don't have to deal with IRS letters and audit letters and that kind of thing. So that's kind of the biggest thing.
Are you looking for a professional tax preparation solution that provides multiple revenue streams for your business? Crosslink's suite of products offers its customers a variety of options to be successful this tax season. Whether you prefer a desktop solution for your business or an online solution for a more mobile approach, Crosslink has you covered. Contact us today to find out all the ways we can help you generate more revenue this tax season.
So just maybe ask for the things that people might be forgetting about. It's not as fresh on their mind as a W-2 or something. Make sure they've brought you all the paperwork, and that way you're not getting a reject, as soon as you send it off, if you've kind of went ahead and asked those questions beforehand.
Sure. Now, what on the flip side for taxpayers, what are some of the things they can do to kind of help their preparer and stay and maybe get organized throughout the year?
Yeah, so the best thing that you can do is, especially if you're self-employed, have yourself a little checklist. Make sure you've brought all of your bank statements and all of your receipts, and that you've kept your mileage log. Especially this time of year, everybody's really trying to get filed before the deadline. So just make sure that you're prepared when you come in. You've done your due diligence, you've made sure you have all your W-2s, you've made sure you've got your updated license. I know some of us forget what year it is sometimes, and you may not notice that your driver's license is expired, and you just thought, oh, I've got all the time in the world to get that done. And then you show up to get your taxes prepared and it's expired. So just make sure you've got current copies of everything, and got everything in a nice little neat stack. So when you do drop it off, your preparer is not calling you 15 times because your ID is expired or this and that. And that way, it helps you too, because you don't have to answer so many questions if you're prepared with your information to begin with.
And the deadline this year is what's the deadline this year? April
18th, because Emancipation Day has moved it from the normal 15th. So it's right after the Easter holiday. It would be April 18th.
And for some of the, I shouldn't call procrastinators, but people that are, waiting to the end, is there anything they can do to prepare themselves now to get ready for filing before the deadline?
Yeah, like I said, just make sure that you've got all your paperwork. We're not chasing anything down, because like I said, everybody's going to be trying to squeeze it in. So the last thing you want to do is get pushed to the back of the stack because you didn't bring something in, and they've moved on to somebody that was more prepared. So just make sure you've got all that. And if you are missing documents, it might be a good idea to ask your preparer about filing an extension. Extensions are not, if you're not able to pay. So just if you're waiting on some more forms, maybe your employer forgot a W-2, and you've tried contacting them about it, or you're waiting on like a 1099-R, or if you've got, you're a partnership and the partnership maybe has a different tax year, or something like that, you might look at filing an extension. That way you're not late on filing if you're actually waiting on paperwork.
And for the individuals or yes, for the individuals that owe the IRS, is there different ways or multiple ways that they can actually pay their amount due?
Yeah, so the IRS offers quite a few different tools. So first, you can ask your preparer, if when they're filing your return before they've sent it off, they can attach a 9465 to your return. And so if you're not able to pay the IRS in 120 days, they do ask if you can pay it off that quickly. You just don't do it because the late penalty is less than the fee for the installment agreement. But they can do an installment agreement with your tax return. So that would be your preparer helping you do that on your return. And so they would just get your routing and account information. It's going to be paid back over the 72 months. And then, it'll just be divided evenly what you owe. So they can do
Mhm.
that on your return itself. You can also, if you don't want to do that, after they have filed your return, go on irs.gov. They have options for paying over the phone. They have options if you want to do it old school and mail a money order or a cashier's check, you can do that. Or you can log in your online account and set up a payment as well.
Nice. So there's multiple ways that you guys or they can pay. That's nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've got quite a variety. And then just keep in mind, if you owe the state as well, each state has their own specific things as well, where you can mail in or you can call or you can usually go online at this point. Most of them offer some kind of online portal.
Okay. They, let's say someone received an audit letter from the IRS. Is there anything that you would recommend for them to, better prepare themselves for this audit?
Yeah, so the best thing you can do is always be prepared for them to audit
Hmm.
something. So make sure you're keeping your records for 3 years. Don't get rid of any of your tax records. You need to hold on to those,
So don't file
especially
a
if you're
return
self.
and throw everything
Yeah,
away.
and just throw it away. Yeah, which is often, what we have people calling us, "Hey, I need a copy of my 1040 for my FAFSA." Or, I'm getting audited and I have no idea what was on my return at this point. So, yeah, keep
Mm.
your records is the first thing for at least 3 years. If you're self employed, make sure you keep up with everything you turned in with your return. So don't throw your receipts away for at least, 3 to 5 years. Like make sure that you're keeping your bank statements because last thing you want to do is they audit you right at the end of, the allowable period and then you've just shredded everything and you can't prove anything that's on there. So just make sure you
Sure.
keep a hold of everything and that you read the letters thoroughly. So don't assume anything, read everything that's on there, make sure you understand what they're asking for because they're usually pretty clear, this is what we're looking for. So just do your due diligence, that way when you're responding, you don't forget something and then they send you another letter because you didn't include it the first time. So just kind of get it one and done over with and taken care of.
Nice. Looking ahead to next tax season, I mean, what
Mhm.
can what are some things that preparers can do now to make the process for them next season a little easier?
Yeah, so especially if you've got customers that are coming to you right now that are surprised that they owe money or maybe not surprised that they owe money, the best thing you can do is kind of check in with them and see why it is that they did owe this year because maybe we can kind of ease the blow next year. If they need to be making estimated payments, we can go ahead and get them prepared for that now so that they're doing that throughout the year when they come in. They've done that, maybe they're not owing like they do this year, or if it's a withholding problem, they can go ahead and adjust withholding. So that kind of helps your customer base anyway. If you sit down and you're like, this doesn't look great this year, but let's help you make it look better next year. So that'll kind of
Hmm.
help them in the long run. And then don't procrastinate on, looking at the new tax law updates. I know it's kind of like we're not done yet. Why would we even try to confuse ourselves, with new numbers? But as soon as the season's over, the best thing you can do is look forward to, okay, now I'm done. What's changed? Because then when people start calling in with questions, you've had plenty of time to, familiarize yourself with that. And don't necessarily get out of your tax program because once you're out, it seems like you start to forget things. So maybe just every once in a
Hmm.
while, go back in there, experiment with some things that maybe are going to change next year, just so that when it does come time, it's still fresh in your mind and you're ready to go.
Nice. Well, I think that's all I had for you today. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your extensive knowledge with me. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I hope I can get you back on this show sometime in the future, and we can talk more.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Cass.
Thanks.
I hope this episode was beneficial to you. And if it was, please leave us a 5-star review so that we can continue to deliver content. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Taxverse Podcast Experience. I'm your host, Zach Kreitz, and I'll catch you on the next one.